So welcome back, everybody. I think me and Jerry are a little tired, so we're gonna sound a little less hyper today. But it's gonna be a good day. It's gonna be a great day. We're gonna have a good conversation, and I really hope somebody jumps in. Or for those people who are listening to us, thank you. And hopefully, we can get this going. We can bring advocacy on cannabis, period. Not only medical cannabis, but you know, the morality of it. And I think those are the two things that we want to talk about today. Kind of close the door for a little bit on the medical part, and then talk about the faith aspect, and you know, and I would like to say, a lot. Thank you to my friend Angel. She's the one that got me into this conversation and got me thinking. So I appreciate people like that. Um, so let's start with the medical part, right? We have shared about, I want to say like maybe nine posts the last week regarding medical advances with cannabis. Tell me about it,
Yes.
man, Jared. I saw the one with the coma. I saw the
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
with, yeah.
There's a lot of research going in with the glaucoma one, but that one was it was kind of back and forth as I read some
Mhm,
of the research. So there are some that would say that someone would have to smoke or ingest large amounts of THC for it to have benefit
mhm,
to relieve the eye pressure, while others said, you know, regular daily use
mhm.
helps to relieve eye pressure. So it was a very interesting, I thought, study.
Okay.
So with different kind of information.
Yeah, and there was another one there that I really liked. Do you remember? My brain is all jacked up. Do you remember
Hold
which one was glaucoma was yesterday or today?
on, let me pull it up real quick on my phone,
Help me here.
or while we're sitting here, because let's see what go to our page. Let's see what we got
There
here.
was one, there was one, like I said, that I found really interesting.
All right. So, okay, day 11 was glaucoma symptom management. Day 10 was epilepsy and seizure disorders.
Epilepsy. Okay, and
Yeah.
what's the one before that?
The one day 9 was post traumatic stress disorder, PTSD management was day 9.
All right. So I think we have beat the horse in PTSD management.
Right.
We have beat the horse on that one. Okay. And again, depends, I'm more respect different approaches because I do have a friend who is a nurse practitioner in the mental health, right? Um, and we have had conversations. But oh my God, and what was the last, and what was the other one? Help me here.
The
Epilepsy.
epilepsy and seizure disorders. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Epilepsy is probably the one that I have heard the most in the last 15 years, especially on little kids with brain tumors
Mhm.
or, excessive epilepsy in which family have to move to a legal state. I mean, I think I remember this case in which the family moved to Colorado and then hire this lady that was making oils to help reduce the size of a tumor of a kid's brain and to help with the epilepsy. And this kid is alive today. And I can go into Google and you can search on cases like this, and it's more and more common, in the last 15 years that I have seen with little kids. They either use the drops
Hmm.
And I have seen what else I have seen. The drops is the most common one in a child. Have you seen any of that?
No, I haven't. No, I've read about a lot of it. That's what I've been doing
Yeah.
this past. But no, reading,
You know,
yes. No, I
yeah,
haven't. It's interesting stuff. And some of the
yeah,
research I've been getting lately is blown my own mind. It's
yeah.
yeah.
And the last one is COVID, and I said it when COVID first came out, I'm going to, I'm going to jump back into the subject, into the COVID time in the next conversation, right?
Right.
But COVID time, I got COVID, I think 2 or 3 times. Excuse me. It was very mild and very manageable. I mean, seeing all these, and again, I'm just one guy. Okay,
Hmm.
I'm compromised. I was overweight, diabetic, um, respiratory issues, so many medical stuff, due to my service, that I was considered to be compromised. But I did not change my daily activities. In fact, I think I was still smoking cannabis, but in smaller portions. I believe I was doing that, more like microdose. And again, that's while I was sick, right? And again, the crazy part is the worst thing that I had was pain aches all 3 times.
Right. Kind of sounds kind of like me. And in 2021, I got COVID, and it was very manageable. I had the body aches, things like that, but it was very manageable. And I was smoking cannabis then as well. And so, and then right now I'm dealing with pneumonia,
Mhm,
and and what we were talking about prior to us getting on was I told you I went into the garage and it took
mhm,
one good bowl and everything that was in my chest I released it. I was
mhm,
packed up a lot of that junk
mhm,
that was in my lungs, and so for this entire week pneumonia has been manageable, and I still been smoking weed. And I know people
mhm,
probably out there think that's crazy of me, you know, with pneumonia
mhm.
and smoking weed. But you can see that I'm not wheezing or I'm not struggling to breathe right now. So
You know,
cannabis is like we were talking about. It's for everybody, right? And
mhm.
it's try to help me out here. I kind of lost my
Yeah.
mind, but but
No, no, yeah, I got you, man. I got what you were trying to say.
yeah,
There's a lot of benefits for
right,
the cannabis. Like it's an anti-inflammatory. It is a muscle relaxer. It is a stimulate, for some people, depends what you use. There's so many benefits out of it that, like I said, the last 15 years, the research, especially in the medical department with psychedelics, they have come so far that I think it's time that we stop ignoring the benefits, right? I like cigarettes. I don't know much about tobacco, honestly. I know the nicotine part, but unlike cigarettes, cannabis, it is an anti-inflammatory. And again, when I have COVID, and I do suffer from asthma, and I'm telling you, every year around April, I won't say May, June, I get walking pneumonia. And I still smoke, they give me like a 7-day antibiotic thing. I do what I gotta do and I continue moving forward. But I do not feel as drained or as, you know, as ill. You know what I mean?
hmm,
As
yeah,
ill.
Yeah.
as ill as I have in the past.
Yeah.
You know, now and then it comes the faith part. And this is the second part of the conversation that we want to have. It is the faith part. Because I went to a friend's house a couple of days ago, and we were having a conversation, and it was a very good conversation. It was no shaming. It was no. It was just a good conversation, a good debate, right? And it got me thinking, right? Like, because just like alcohol, just like, about every other drug out here, we can be a an opening for the devil, right? Let's get that clear. Do we
Yeah.
agree on that? Do we agree on that, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. 100%. 100%.
Okay. I think about anything, right now, and this another example we use is right now I can have a commercial pop up in my phone with pornographic videos. Technically speaking, you're looking at that is sinning, right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay,
100%.
okay. But there's also the free will aspect, in religion, in which we have free will. Okay. There's the other aspect in which we have to trust in the Lord, right? So, there's a lot of subjects there that we talked about, and I was like, man, how can one plug into the other? Uh, I always have said this, okay? I think the intention behind the usage is very important. Let me explain, okay? If you're smoking, to go to the club to pick up a chick and do what you do, you want to get high first, feeling good, then get that freaking the little drinks, right? If that's what you're doing it for, I get that argument, right? But if in my heart I'm doing it, trusting the Lord that everything that He put in the ground was for me to use for my benefit, and it has been beneficial. Okay, everybody around you can tell you that. Around me can tell you that. Um, is there still a chance the devil can attack me? I think he attacks me every day from different angles. Do I let him defeat me? No, because I got my freaking protector. I got my shield. I got my, shiny armor. I got trust in God that He got my back. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. I was gonna mention. I wrote something on Facebook that kind of goes along with this conversation right now. And let me find it because I'll read it to our audience because it's a Bible verse, but it also has a little bit of my thought to it. And I wrote this the other day, but to kind of like understand the morality of stuff, I think this Bible verse helps us understand morality. And it was written so long ago, right here. So in Romans chapter 7, verse 19, Paul wrote, "For the good that I will to do, I do not do, but the evil I will not to do, that I practice." And I wrote, "We are our own worst enemy. Here is the true human struggle: self sabotage despite knowing better," right?
Mhm,
So we are weak, right? This is why we have God. So, in what we were talking about before this, before we got on, we were talking about the free will, our conscience, right?
mhm,
You and I were talking about how our intentions with cannabis is that we don't see it as poison, we see it as beneficial to
mhm,
us, to our health, right? And I know that you and I were talking about prior to this, we were talking about growing closer spiritually because of the use of cannabis. And you and I have talked about how it's helped you and me
mhm,
grow spiritually. Now we have the conversation about, does it open the door for Satan to mess with us?
mhm,
And that's always a possibility because temptation is what we'll always deal with. So I think the answer really lies with your intentions. Really, it's the intentions, right?
Yeah.
Is that the best way to kind of answer this? It's
Yeah.
because I do see both sides of this argument, and it's making me think because there are people out there who struggle with addiction,
Mhm.
and so addiction can always be a problem, no matter what you use. Addiction can
Right.
alcohol, even
Can be an
cannabis.
issue.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So it's very. I think this is good for our show to cover
Yeah.
this morality because it's
Yeah.
important.
Yeah. Morality. I think, and this is, with due respect to everybody. If you're not religious, I get it. I respect you. That's your choice. For me, being religious, morality, especially in choices that I do, means a lot, right? And then it comes down to, something I said last week, addiction. Am I addicted to cannabis or am I dependent on cannabis, right? Now, if I'm addicted, and I'm assuming dependent is your body requires to to work with, right? Some of us, we're dependent in water, we're dependent in food, we gotta have that, right? Do I gotta have weed? I don't think that that's the case, right? However, okay, I don't think I am addicted to cannabis, okay? However, okay, similar to my antidepressants, if I don't take them on a daily basis, it could have some negative side effects because of some stuff that has happened, in my life. I got chemical disbalance, right? So is that a bad dependency? Is my diabetes medication, uh, is it bad being dependent on something? I think, I think I confused earlier. I didn't mean to say that I was not dependent. I meant to say I was not addicted. I think I am dependent on cannabis. Do I need to have it every day? I actually have done this experiment, and the answer is no. I don't feel any different. I mean, that's a lot. I do feel a lot different. I'm not hungry. Sometimes I don't sleep well. I'm agitated. Stuff like that. You know what I mean? Especially if I go 3, 4 days without cannabis, right? I also have gone 3, 4 days with cannabis, but not taking my mental health meds. Okay. That similar effect, I become a very mean person, right? So in saying that, right, and then again, it comes with trusting the Lord, right? Do I want to give, I do want to give all my issues to the Lord, right? Do you understand? Do you see where I'm coming in? Like how it's kind of conflicting
Yeah, yeah,
in
yeah. It's conflicting, right? Yes, the confliction is it's almost normal because
yeah,
you know what I kind of for myself when being a person who being I was a country boy growing up raised I'm a
really?
dude. Yeah, yeah,
Really?
you probably wouldn't tell now, but yeah.
I thought you were a New Yorker. Never mind. I'm kidding. Go ahead.
But I growing up in the '90s, just say no, and
Yeah.
I my whole entire life I was told that marijuana was bad,
Mhm.
right? That it would wreck your life. Like if you touch it, you're never gonna amount to anything. That's how marijuana was always presented to me, in school and things like that. It's just it would wreck your life, and so I stayed away. For growing up, I stayed away from cannabis. I
Yeah.
stayed away from people who did cannabis because I
Right.
thought that it would wreck my life. See, that what was my direction was that it'll wreck my life. That's what everybody told me. church, school, it just wrecked my life. It would. But as life went on, and going to Iraq, coming home, having a hard time to adjust, going through all the patterns, man, the endless counselors, the endless, up at midnight, not trying to sleep, can't sleep. The medications were doing this to me, making me feel this way, that way, and I felt like the medications the VA were giving me was what was wrecking my life. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I felt like it was the VA was wrecking my life, right? And then the moment cannabis, right?
Hmm.
But you know what? I would tell the audience what came before cannabis was my faith. My faith came first, then cannabis came. And I want,
100%.
and I know, and like I said, I'm not pushing nothing, but my faith came. And then the moment that my faith came, I woke up one day and something inside me said, this, when I was looking at the cabinet, those medications, a voice in me said, these are not good for you anymore. It's just not. And I ended up talking to a buddy who was always trying to tell me about cannabis. We went into a shop, and the moment I walked into that shop, something inside me told me, this is good, right?
Hmm.
This is good. But the voice told me that I also had a choice,
Hmm.
right? You could do good or you could do evil. And so I had a choice. And that is where I think morality comes in. Now, I'm a man of faith. I do believe God talks to me. He puts things on my heart. I'm not saying I hearing a voice. No, I was saying
Hmm.
what was on the heart, what was like a message on the heart. So it's like I said, that's our morality. That's my story, anyways. So
And you said something kind of like came to me, something that you said, and it made me feel a certain way, and it was a good way. Um, it was mostly trusting in God,
mm,
right? I mean, you know, arguably, okay, we do not know how old cannabis is. In fact, some people can argue, okay, some scholar can argue that cannabis was mentioned in the Bible on multiple occasions,
I've
okay,
heard
in
that.
rituals, okay. Now, I'm not a Bible expert. I'm going to tell you that. I've heard this. I
Mm,
cannot, I cannot confirm it. All right. But what I do know is that cannabis has done good for me. And it was put in my life, and I trust in the Lord that it was put in my life for good. Now, there is where the free will come in, right? Am I gonna use it for enjoyment, or am I going to use it for medicinal? Now, I'm gonna be honest with everybody here, okay? 100%. I enjoy cannabis. I said it. I'm telling you right now. I enjoy cannabis. I never been a smoker until the age of 39, but I enjoy it. To me, is very ritual. Like my ending day, my beginning day. It's something that I enjoy, something that doesn't take me out to the bar or doesn't take me out to the strip club. I just sit in my backyard and I just light up. I listen to the birds, think, I thank the trees, and I just feel good about it, right? My
mm.
intentions are not bad. Okay, do I enjoy it? Um, yeah, just like I enjoy having sex with my wife, not to compare both of them, okay? But again, folks can argue too that, that is a sin, having sex with your wife for older than, trying to have kids, right? So, there's, again, I think it is the free will is there and the intentions got to be there. I think those are the main key. Again, if I'm smoking weed to have, a bunch of affairs, around the city, whatever, I get it. That's no, and I'm married. I, I'm not saying that, right? What I'm saying is that I'm a human being in love with my wife, and just like every human has done since the beginning of humanity, we enjoy having casual sex.
Hmm?
Okay, just like some folks, even the most holy person can, they enjoy something. Cigars, wine, beer. I enjoy cannabis, which happen to be very beneficial in type of the enjoyment. So
Yeah.
is that make me an evil person? I trust in God that the answer is no.
Well, you touched on some good stuff because, like, once again, talking about the intention is like you're right. Because for me, I'm going to tell our audience, do I enjoy cannabis? Absolutely. Absolutely, I enjoy it. But I also use it for medical purposes. But I, I think that there's going to be a balance. Why can't we use it for medical and still enjoy it? Sitting on our porch, meditating, reflecting. Right? Sometimes to me, I see it no different than a man sitting on his porch and having a beer and doing the same thing. Does that make sense? Like
Yeah,
my bowl, my doobie. It's no different than a man's beer on his porch. Same
yeah,
thing. It's just minus the hangover.
yeah,
It's
yeah. No,
minus.
exactly. Yeah. You know what I
It's
want? Yeah. I said, you know what I want to talk about next week? I want to continue on this conversation of morality, and I want to bring a generation. It's not my generation, thank God. Um, and I mean, thank God, because I don't think my generation will survive it. Okay, the Vietnam War. That. Let me tell you, man, that was something else. But there was a point in the Vietnam, right, in which people were smoking cannabis, right?
Mhm.
And
Right.
they prohibited cannabis. The next best thing that didn't smell was freaking H, heroin, shrooms, all this crazy stuff. So, and that's when all those monstrosity of events happen in Vietnam. You know,
Mhm.
uh, um, so I want to touch on that morality part on next one because we're going on 30 minutes. And I know people got, we have our own time, but I want to continue on morality and I want to continue on the morality aspect of and how we have come back from it, how some people have peace, some peace in cannabis and the ritual. Um, and not only Vietnam veterans that I know Vietnam veterans that came back very messed up, and it took them years too. And I know veterans that were just straight up stoners, and didn't leave their back porch because
Mhm.
they just want to, smoke the weed,
Yeah.
and read the newspaper with a cup of coffee. Uh, th- that is the kind of life that I like, right? Um, but morality, again, uh, um, 28 minutes going on 29 minutes. Let's cut it here, continue this morality conversation. Um, I want to go into the into the word route, see how that fits in this conversation. Just out of curiosity. All right.
Yep. Get the link shared out.
All right,
We can
Jeff.
get some more. Yeah.
Again?
So we get the link shared out. We'll get some more. We can get some guests on here. I think that would help. Get some
Yes,
guests.
sir. We'll do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. All right, man. So, get well with that pneumonia.
yeah. All right, brother.
All right. Just like I tell all my troops, don't do nothing I would. Because the Lord knows. The Lord knows I did some stuff. You know what I mean? But,
Yeah, I know, my brother.
um, yeah, man. Live free, man. Be blessed. Thank God for every minute, every breath, and
Yeah.
everything that He gave us to consume. That is my prayer to Him, and to end this. So I want everybody to have a great day. Um, Jerry, continue getting well, and we'll talk next week. Okay, man?
All right. Goodbye,
All
everyone.
right,
Thank you.
peeps.
Yep.
Peace.